So Star Wars Hunters is still very new to a lot of players, and although I'm sure most of you guys have the gameplay elements down pat already, there are a lot of things this game doesn't really tell you all that well. So today I thought I'd go over 7 things Star Wars Hunters doesn't tell you. Now keep in mind, a lot of these are, I guess, smaller elements of the game, but there are going to be a lot more in-depth gameplay tips on the channel in the next few weeks, as I'm going to begin to go through ultimate hunter guides for every single character in the game, and a lot more content like that as well. So if you guys are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out. But with that being said, let's get stuck right into it. Now the first thing is something that I've actually had a lot of comments asking about, and this is how to change your avatar, which I believe on the mobile version of the game is actually very simple, but if you're on the Switch, this can be a little bit more confusing. From the very home screen, as you can see up in the top left of my screen there, it has my avatar there with 50, that being my overall level. And if you just head on over to that and click on it, and obviously the same goes for on mobile, it's just doing that via touchscreen rather than having to move the cursor over there. This then pulls up essentially your profile within the game. Now from here, it is pretty simple to look through the rest of the stuff, but if you're on Switch, it's a little bit confusing because the keybind is actually hidden. And so if you just press X on your Nintendo Switch, that will then bring up the avatar where you can look at all the different avatars you can choose from, and that is how you change it. So again, pretty simple thing to do on the mobile version of the game, but they've made it a little bit more difficult on the Switch, and I've had so many comments over the last few days asking me how you actually change that. Now the next thing the game doesn't really tell you is actually in that same area. If you then go back, you can actually head to the right on that second tab there, and there's actually a full stat screen that you can look through pretty much every single stat you could possibly think of in Star Wars Hunters. From the amount of games that you've played to the amount of hunters you defeated, the healing done, even your overall time played, all of that is available over there on the left. And then if you head to the little drop down box over on the top right, it'll show the hunter stats for whatever you set that to. So you can see all of the hunters there, and it'll show initially how many games you won, but you can check that and change to pretty much whatever stat you want, and it will go through all of those stats for every single hunter in the game. So again, that is something the game doesn't really tell you. It doesn't explain that that's there. You just kind of have to find that. And so I think a lot of people are probably not actually going to know that that is available. Now, something else the game does not tell you at all is how the quests work in this game. If you guys go to the events tab, there is the events, the quests, and the dailies. Now the daily challenges are obviously pretty simple. There's just 3 every day that you can pretty much complete to get some extra bonuses. The events tab is also fairly straightforward, although I will touch on that a little bit more in a second. But when it comes to the quests, this doesn't really explain it that well, and hell, even having played for so long like I have, I often still get confused by the quests tab over here on the events tab. If you go down through all of these different quests, you can then also see all of the rewards if you just press the button down the bottom there, and it shows you essentially everything you can unlock through these quests. How it also works though is that you need to get the little tickets, which are the blue and gold little, I guess, rectangular shaped items there, and you'll need to get that amount of tickets that it shows over there on the right. So most of these are usually about 3, but some of them are longer quests that will require a lot more, obviously. And how you unlock them is essentially by finishing the challenges that it presents there at the top of the page. Then once you complete some of these though, there is also then a second quest that will become available. As you can see down the bottom, for example, there is Sentinel Mastery 2, and so you actually need to finish Sentinel Mastery 1, and then it will begin to unlock secondary items of these. Now not all of them have the secondary one available, but eventually they will, and a lot of these, as you can see by the Sentinel one, come with some pretty awesome skins, paying as much attention to these as the game essentially wants us to. So hopefully that explains that a little bit. It took me a while to get my head around that when they first added that to the soft launch, and again, it doesn't really explain it that well in game. Now before we go any further, if you guys are interested, I have got a brand new merch drop that I've just launched that is actually inspired by Star Wars Hunters. As you can see, I've taken the Star Wars Hunters logo, changed it to Aurebesh, but then I've also changed the words to say Sami Squad, and that is available right now. You can find that through the link in the description. It is in the description of every single video that I post. So if you guys are interested, be sure to go and check that out. But with that being said, let's get stuck back into it. Now on that same events tab, there is also the regular events too, but something else that doesn't really get explained all that well is that there is a much easier way to find all of the challenges you need to do rather than just the top challenges it will show over there on the right, meaning you can essentially look at all of them at once and figure out the best way to approach them. If you view the event, you can then see not only all the rewards, but you can go to the challenge tab over here, and like I said, it will show every single challenge that you need to do in order to pretty much progress through through this entire event. And obviously the same thing goes for every single event. Now keep in mind, these are timed, so you want to be doing them as soon as you possibly can whenever they launch. They're usually like a weekly thing. Sometimes it goes a little bit longer depending on what the event is, but being able to look at all of the challenges will make you progress through them a lot easier rather than simply only seeing 3, because then you can kind of focus on more of them than just those 3 at a single time. Now something else the game doesn't really explain very much at all is to do with the badges that you earn in game that you can then see post game, and these badges will give you more hunter fame, pretty much allowing you to level up faster, which is a pretty crucial element of the game. But like I said, it doesn't really explain that all that much unless you deep dive into it yourself and essentially figure it out on your own. What you want to be doing is after each game, if you get to this screen, you want to try and look at each of these badges and essentially just become familiar with them, as in what they actually require for you to get those badges, as well as how many hunter fame points they give you, so that you will then over time eventually learn how you can progress faster. Realistically, the easiest way to describe it is the more badges you get per game, which can be done pretty simply. A lot of them are just simple stuff like, you know, getting double kills and stuff like that. And the more of them you get per game, the faster your hunters are going to level up, which is definitely very, very handy. So don't just skip past that screen at the end. You want to pretty much look at it every single game, and eventually you will learn the easiest ways to level up. I will eventually do a full video on this once I've figured out the best ways myself, but in the meantime, it is definitely worth still looking at this on your own, because like I said, the game doesn't really say all that much about it. Now next up, we have something to do with the store, and this is to do with the credits that I've seen a lot of people asking, you know, what are the point of the credits? They don't really allow you to buy anything. Now down the bottom of the store is where you can find pretty much all of the items that are purchasable with credits, and what you guys need to know is that the store is essentially on a weekly refresh, meaning that at the end of each week, which I believe in terms of the game is usually around a Tuesday or a Wednesday, the store will essentially refresh and the items in the store will obviously change. So if you are getting a heap of credits, which are obviously different than crystals, crystals are the ones that are tied directly to real money, whereas the credits are earned completely through playtime. And if you're getting a heap of credits, you can spend them in store. You can get some pretty cool skins with them. They are obviously not as good usually anyway as the actual paid skins, because they need to make money somehow, but there are some pretty cool items that you should definitely be checking for. And like I said, they are down the bottom of the store usually, which is why I think a lot of people are not too sure what the credits are for. I've had so many comments saying literally what is the point of them, and hopefully that helps explain it a little bit for you guys. Now the last thing I'm going to help with that the game doesn't really explain all that much is the hunter ability upgrade screen. Now if you go to your hunter tab and then just select any hunter that you want, you can then see the upgrades over there on the right. But if you actually go into that, it will show exact stats of what you can eventually upgrade once you level up your hunter, which is why it is very important to focus on those badges like I mentioned in an earlier point, because the more you level up your hunter, the more of a benefit you will get, and essentially the stronger your hunters will become. Now at the end of the day, the increases and the upgrades are not that big. They're not going to be, you know, completely game changing, but they are still very helpful. And as far as I'm aware, this is really the only screen where it actually displays all of the proper stats. And again, the game doesn't really shove it in your face. Obviously it is readily available for everyone to find, but you've got to kind of go looking for this stuff yourself rather than the game, you know, holding your hand to find these different elements. So hopefully that gives you guys a better idea of what you actually get when you are leveling up all of your hunters. Currently there are only 25 levels per hunter, but we've seen screenshots where it actually says up to level 74, meaning I'm going to assume there's 75 levels, if not potentially 100. Whether all of those are tied to different stat upgrades, I'm not 100% sure, but for now you can still see what you can upgrade just by getting to level 25, and it is absolutely worth doing. So anyway, those are 7 things the game doesn't really tell you all that much. Like I said, most of this is readily available. It's not like you've got to do anything crazy to find this stuff, but you do have to kind of look into the game to find a lot of these details rather than it actually giving you any sort of tutorial. And so hopefully this helped you guys out, at least even just a little bit. That is going to do it for this one though, guys. Thank you all very much for watching. You guys have a great day, and may the force be with you always.